Many of us will age into a disability, such as dementia, mobility issues, and hearing or vision loss. But since it's often a shared experience across society, this progression is more normalized than for people who have these issues earlier in life. The separation may also stem from differences in awareness. The general population is much more aware of senior living facilities and support than of disability programs. Last week, we began a conversation around growth attenuation therapy, which is a medical treatment that closes a child's growth plates and keeps them small forever. David Carlson, Executive Director of Disability Rights Montana, says there's a big information gap that contributes to parents feeling like growth attenuation therapy is their best option. In the late 2000s, Dr. Benjamin Wilfond and a colleague spent a year discussing the various aspects of this treatment with a group of 20 people, all representing different views on the topic.
What the group tried to do is to ask, is there any way that we can come to consensus about this? And we began, even in terms of the paper we wrote, by acknowledging the social context of people with disabilities. Why this is so troubling? Because of the broad ways and broad types of discrimination and stigmatization that people with disabilities face daily. And therefore, this, from that lens, seems like one more example of able-bodied people dismissing the value and importance and experience of people with disabilities.
Wilfond is a bioethicist at Seattle Children's Research Institute. He says the group believed it was important that the views of the disability community be a part of the parents' decision for their own child. However, the choice is ultimately made by what will offer their kid the best quality of life, with the resources available to them. And if the parents aren't aware of any assistance programs in their area, Wilfond says it makes sense why the choice for growth attenuation looks like the best option.
And yes, wouldn't it be nice that they felt this was not something that they needed to do? That would be great. Also, some parents might still say, I prefer this. Some parents might say, I prefer that I can lift up my child, that my child's only 70 pounds and not 120 pounds. And this is meaningful to me. And the relationship I have with my child is one that I prefer not to give up as my child gets older. And that same concept of prioritizing the relationship, that I think is why we should allow parents to make decisions to care for their children at home, also could be, this is to me is a very minor thing to sort of make a decision about their final height.
However, Carlson argues that every parent has to deal with the reality that their kids won't stay small forever. It's a fact of life that shouldn't be ignored just because one needs more assistance than the other.
Your child does not derive value and is not a function of you. Your child is independent of you, and hopefully you will continue to grow and find ways to continue to deepen your relationship, and that the physical affection is still appropriate and necessary. When you're 80 and you're on your deathbed, you want them close to you. It will not matter to you if they are the size of a 6-year-old or a 60-year-old. You want a close physical, emotional bond with your kid. Great. They don't need to be small to do that. You are trying to keep them small, confine, control, when all of parenting is about trying to support, uplift, open up possibilities.
But maintaining a close relationship isn't the most pressing issue. For many of these parents, there's a very big, very real fear around sexual abuse. The Department of Justice's latest statistics from 2019 report that the rate people with disabilities experience violent crime, such as rape and sexual assault, is more than 4 times that of able-bodied people. This horror has been prevalent for decades. In fact, a 2007 report published in Australian Psychologist estimates that 90% of people with intellectual or developmental disabilities will experience sexual abuse. With these terrifying statistics, it's not hard to see why parents would want to do everything in their power to protect their children.
The desire to say, yeah, I understand you've got all these different programs and you can bring in different people, but I know I'm not going to sexually assault my child. I don't want anyone else around them. I want to protect them as long as possible. I get that. But I also know you're not going to be there forever. So we need systems in place that can provide those services that you are comfortable with and you can watch and see that are working, and try them before you are gone, because eventually you'll be gone and then there's nothing you can do. So figuring that out is important, but we don't address adequately the sexual assault of people with intellectual disabilities by thinking we can somehow freeze them in time or separate them enough from society that they will be safe. The more we separate people, the easier it is to abuse them, not harder.
These factors, caregiving, protection, relationships, all influence the decision to use growth attenuation therapy. It's an ethical debate for a reason, meaning that there's no easy answer. However, Carlson acknowledges that though fear of the future is a powerful motivator, it can easily stifle growth instead of encourage safety.
Parenting is tough. Life is tough. I get that. I don't have an easy answer. And I don't suggest that doctors are proposing an easy answer. Just do this and it all goes away. All of it is tough. But I don't think that modifying the growth and development of a child to keep them permanently small is a long-term answer for anything. It might make your fears go away that you've done something. I did something. Now I'm in control. I think that's illusory.
Still, parents can decide that this feeling of control, illusion or not, is enough to choose growth attenuation. It's this decision that Wilfon's paper, published in the journal Hastings Center Report, explored to what degree parents should have power over.
And our answer to that ultimately was that we thought this is within the scope of what parents can decide. But we also talked about the fact that to make that decision, ideally parents need to have an understanding of what is it like to care for a child with those disabilities as they get older. And also to understand and appreciate why to some people this seems like an inappropriate thing to do. So we actually agreed that people should be aware of the fact that some people view this as being inappropriate, even if it's still one that we consider within their range of decisions. This could be a consideration for them as they make their decision.
Carlson also advises that parents speak with people with disabilities and other caregivers to help shed light on what the future may look like.
If you can find people who have disabilities or at least life experiences that are similar to the life experiences and disabilities that your child will have, like what has their life looked like? What were they thinking about when they were entering fifth grade? And what are they thinking about now that they are 25 years old?
And though people with profound disabilities won't be able to advocate for themselves, Carlson thinks that the beliefs of the greater disabled population should be a main voice in the growth attenuation debate.
If you have a unanimous chorus of disabled people, people with physical disabilities, intellectual disabilities, mental illness, cerebral palsy, and HIV and cancer, all saying, what the heck? No, I like my life. I like being big. And being big is messy, but that's okay. Like, that's got to fit in there somewhere, that you have a bunch of adults with disabilities and you have stories of success that have many different shades of colors and this tapestry of a disability community that is filled with an infinite number of variations. And your child is a part of that.
For Carlson, the decision to go through with this therapy is ultimately letting a diagnosis dictate a child's life. While it may be with the best intentions, he thinks it's a premature decision that takes away the wonder of what it means to grow through life.
There's a desire or a need to question the medical prognoses that are thrown around as if they are written in stone, sent down by a deity that can see into the future, when in reality, they're our best guess based on what limited knowledge we have about how different types of brains work. And to just say, I know what's best because I'm the parent, is too simplistic. I've talked to professionals with advanced degrees who have said, yeah, my parents have, offered to pay for me to be sterilized. My parents have wanted me to live a much smaller, confined life, and I pushed back on that. I still have a good relationship with them, but they don't get me. Like, talk to people who you can say, you as a parent are coming from a good place, but sometimes you just don't fully appreciate the experiences that the other person is having.
Like Wilfond and so many others, Carlson was deeply affected by Ashley's case in the 2000s and wanted to set up an ethics panel, noting that there's a gray area in this debate. The idea was for it to be a governing body on these types of situations, to decree in rare situations when it was an appropriate decision. But when he brought this idea to the nation's leading Down syndrome researcher, he was turned away.
He said, that's like asking how to set up a committee to burn down houses. Like, once you set it up, you're going to start looking for houses to burn down. Take it off the table, because so long as it is there and it is something we are talking about, we are going to be trying to decide, well, who's the right person for it? As opposed to, if this house is not very good, let's fix it up. We don't need to burn it down. Let's try and support this house. So don't set up committees to burn down houses.
However, it's unrealistic to never talk about this therapy because it is an option available to parents, and there are issues with current caretaking opportunities, as well as access to these programs. But at the end of the day, Carlson thinks there needs to be a shift in mindset within the medical community.
Growth attenuation has always happened. Children with significant physical and intellectual disabilities in the past were undernourished, malnourished, starved in order to keep them small. A more humane way to keep them small emerged when Seattle Children's Hospital intentionally used growth hormones that had in the past been used on adolescent girls to keep them from getting too tall for the social standards of the time, until some people said, what does too tall for a woman mean? And like, oh yeah, I guess you're right. So you kind of see that social medical interchange right there. Like, oh, maybe we don't do that anymore. And I think the disability community is asking for the same deference of, yeah, we know what you mean by too disabled to be big. And a lot of us are, in your eyes, too disabled to be big, but we don't agree with that.
You can find more information about Dr. Benjamin Wilfond, David Carlson, and all of our guests on our website, radiohealthjournal.org. For more behind the scenes, follow Radio Health Journal on Facebook, Instagram, and X. Our writer-producer is Kristen Farah. Our executive producer is Amira Zaveri. I'm Elizabeth Westfield.